Greetings, everyone. I am Queen Diambi Kabatuswila Chiyomwata Kalamba Mukalenga Mukajiwan Kashama Wabakwa Luntu Wabaluba Wakasai Wa Congo. That is Queen of the Order of the Leopard of the Bakwaluntu people who are part of the Lupa ethnic group in Kasai in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I am also Grande Mai do Povo Banto Brasileiro, that is Queen of the African descendants of Brazil, and Reina de los Congo de Panama, traditional queen of the Congo descendants of Panama. I am so thrilled to be here today, invited for this beautiful summit of love, peace, and harmony organized by Master Shah and his team for this absolutely interesting day that is World Peace Day that was declared by the United Nations as being September 21st. So it's really quite impressive to be together to talk about world peace in this day and age, where we have traversed so many different periods of turmoils of human history, and yet again we still have to speak about peace as if we have not learned the lessons of the past, that violence and war usually do not solve the problems. But today I'm here to speak to you about peace, because peace is a process, of course. It's not something that we're going to acquire overnight. It requires a lot of reflection. It requires of us to really make a decision and to have the intention for bringing peace in the world. And I know millions of people long for peace and harmony and love to be the standard value of operation for everyday life. Unfortunately, we are faced with many conflicts of interest in the world still today, and we have to ask ourselves the question about why is it that we are still, using violence and conflict, resolution skills are still not up to par, eliminating the need for violence and war among the people. We are over 7 billion people on the planet, and it's very difficult to manage everybody's needs and expectations and wants. And of course, we have also attached ourselves to many different cultural identity that are expressed either by belonging to a particular religion or race or a political party or country or region of the world. And sometimes those, instead of just being things to define our identity, sometimes can become jail and mental prison to not allow us to see that others have also the same rights as we do, and also are, native to this planet and therefore sovereign, and their needs and have to be recognized as just as important as anybody else. So we are still dealing with many opposing views in terms of ideology and in terms of needs for control over resources. I come from the Congo, that is called today Democratic Republic of Congo, was previously called Zaire, and before that it was just a basin of Congo, was a region with different kingdoms, and I belong to one of the kingdoms that used to be there. They were territorial nation and not nation states, and they were regimented with different sets of rules, and were known to be quite peaceful for many centuries, if not thousands of years. Africa indeed is the oldest continent in the sense that it has harbored human life for the longest, because it seems with the latest DNA finding that the human genome as we know it today is about 400,000 years old. And out of that 400,000 years old, we have really spent about 330,000 years only on the continent of Africa. And we started to migrate out of Africa only 70,000 years ago. So, and also what is quite interesting when we do research in that field, realizing that we were really a small number of people initially. We come from a very small group of beings, human beings, that um, actually exploited, the resources of the planet so that they can become as numerous and powerful as we are today. But we initially started with mainly very few families, and so it's not surprised that all of us are connected in so many ways that we cannot even imagine. But in many cases, our DNA can be traced back to one single woman in Africa who is now identified as a woman that belonged to the group of the Kungsan of the Kalahari Desert in South Africa. And so that woman was the original Eve and produced the entire humanity. So basically to say this, that we are much more related than we think that we are. We are much more related than it seems to be because of our diversity in terms of phenotype. But in reality, we are so related to each other and so close to each other. So it's almost, when we look at conflicts between either nations or groups or ideology confronting each other, we're really talking about family feuds, because we are really a family. We are a human family, and beyond just idealistic approach, it's really in truth that we are. So I encourage everyone to start looking at this perspective, because it's really connect us to our fundamental essence of being one with each other and not being so divided with each other. It's true that conflicts are part of the existence of everything. Conflicts is in nature. Conflicts is between people even who love each other, like couples or family members and so forth. But conflict is something that we have to learn to deal with in a different ways than just, going towards violence and thinking that it's going to resolve our conflicts. I am from the Congo, and for the past 20 years, we've been enduring a conflict in the east of the Congo that is generating a lot of suffering. And at the beginning, maybe people cared a little about it, but since we are used to a very fast news cycle, well, the conflict in the Congo has, become almost like, part of the decor. And nobody really cares much about this area anymore. Yet again, so much suffering is happening there, especially for women and children. Not to discount, of course, the suffering that men are having, but women are constantly victim of sexual violence that are becoming a pandemic or endemic in the region, or epidemic in the region, I should say. And it's something that is not part of our culture, and it's something that now has become a very severe situation in terms of public health, because many women are victim of sexual violence from the people fighting in the conflict. So they are armed and dangerous, and abuses women and children in such a way that I could not even want to describe it in this video that I'm making for this summit. But people have to be conscious that something is fundamentally wrong in the Congo. And I would love to mobilize people to pray for Congo, to put their consciousness to send peace, a vibration, and also to press on the local leaders and national leaders to really support peace in the Congo, in the east of the Congo. To that effect, so many women have been destroyed and hurt and killed during that conflict, that it has caused a complete imbalance in society. And there is a need for empowering of women, for also helping women in terms of their health care. That is for one of the reasons why I'm involved into building a surgical clinic specifically designed for women and women gynecological and obstetric issues. And I'm working with an organization in Belgium, Unishare, that is going to be a hospital for training surgeons in the Congo and training medical personnel to make sure that the women in Beni, in the east of the Congo, where a lot of these conflicts are happening, have a safe place and to go to when they require medical attention. So thank you, Master Shah, for supporting this project, because Master Shah and his foundation, Love, Peace and Harmony, have shown to be a formidable ally for my projects in the Congo relating to women and also relating to water and also orphanages and children, homeless children. So it's really a joy and a pleasure for me to say thank you publicly for this great support of this organization that is about love, peace, and harmony. But love, peace, and harmony are things that we have to work on. It's a constant work in progress. It's never achieved. It's always a very fragile equilibrium between meeting our needs and meeting the needs of other people. So we live on the planet where resources are scarce for some and may be abundant for others, but the distribution of these resources is not equal. And then there is different types of resources. Of course, there's natural resources, there's human resources, there is also resources in terms of technology and mastering of some technology and techniques, and also the terms in which we have developed our societies. So in reality, it would require people to sit around a table and say, listen, we have enough resources on this planet for everyone, but it's not equally and well distributed. So we really have to work hard in attempting to find what are the mechanisms that can yield to better equilibrium and better balance in terms of distributing the resources in a more equitable way. And I think a lot of the conflict would then start to resign because it's really about sharing. It's really about learning that we are okay and we don't need so much. And when so many have so much and many more have so little, of course, it's always going to be a source of conflict. So when we think of the Western societies, for instance, and when I talk about Western societies, I'm referring to Europe mainly, to the Americas, like North America particularly, to Australia, or some parts of Asia like Japan, Korea, South Korea, China, and all these different places where these society have achieved not only the ability to meet their basic needs, but have exceeded that ability in such great capacity that now consumerism is becoming an attitude, a societal attitude, where everything has to be used and consumed rapidly, and the cycle gets faster and faster as we see the production of goods and services abound on the market that is close to becoming saturated. But yet again, there is always a way to throw away and waste away and then use anew. And the phenomenon, for instance, of storage is all over the place in those areas where people have so much stuff that they have to rent space just to store things that oftentimes just they stay there forgotten for sometimes years. So these are symptoms that there is something fundamentally wrong in the way we have conceived how we live in this world on the planet, while so many lack of the minimum things to meet their needs, like clean water, for instance. I am working right now on a project in the DRC, in my land in Diambi, Kasai, where I have to bring clean water. So it's drilling and it's a process to bring clean water to different villages because people there have a really, really difficult time getting clean water. So it's quite interesting in that one way, on one area of the world, we are wasting water. We are using water like it's not a scarce, resource, which actually it is. And very soon we're going to start asking ourselves a lot of questions about how we preserve and conserve water, because it's really scarce. It's not as abundant as we want to think. And then there's areas in the world where they don't even have access to water, to clean water. And it's quite, puzzling to know this and to be confronted with this, because I travel all over the world. So I go to places where they don't have water, to places where they waste water every day. And so for me, it's kind of like almost obvious answers like, wow, why don't we just sit down and why don't we just figure out how to best distribute what we have so that everybody can have what they need. Maybe not all that they want, because want now goes into another realm, but what they need indeed. So this is why I'm working on water projects in the Congo in terms of drilling for water wells in different villages where they have really experienced severe difficulties because of lack of water and very dramatic consequences on people's life, and especially in terms of healthcare and for infants and children especially. So it's a human right to have water, but yet again, so many people don't have it. So we have to work together diligently to find how we can, address those questions. And the world peace requires us, that day requires us to reflect and ask ourselves the question, why is it that we don't have world peace? Why is it that in this day and age we are still using ancient practices of violence and war and coercion to obtain results that we think will be beneficiary to anyone? So those are fundamental questions to ask ourselves, and also to understand that peace is something that we need to work on every day. It's an attitude and a posture that we have to willingly acquire and willingly work to practice every day. It doesn't come naturally. Some instinct of us might be instinct that promotes, violence in some cases, and a very self-centered and selfish view of how we want to operate to gain access to what we want. However, in the long term, it's shown that it's not served us well. And we have, created an organism like the UN, international organization, to ensure that, massive conflict like the World War One and Two and several other conflicts wouldn't happen. So we have to ask ourselves the question, what is wrong? Why are we failing to sometimes get there? Indeed, we cannot say that we have not made progress, because we haven't had a world war, since, the last one. So we can say that, yes, indeed, it hasn't been that bad. Yet many regions of the world have suffered severe conflict that have impacted and destroyed many lives. So we still have work to do to implement peace, but we have to admit that, peace starts within. To think that we can superimpose peace on people and think that it's going to be okay, we can just tell them to be peaceful, it's not going to work. Peace has to be something that we are willingly working towards achieving by taking a conscious decision that we want to be a peaceful person, because being a peaceful person has its impact on the global scale, meaning that when we are peaceful within, we are also peaceful without, meaning that we are bringing our attitude and our energy of peace in everything that we do. So to just write peace resolution on piece of papers is not enough. We have to really go into education, into really explaining, into really helping people experiment what it is to feel peaceful within, and all the benefit and incentive that we can have from being a peaceful person within, and then how we can translate that peace into action. Because it's not suffice to say that we are, looking to self-improve and grow self-awareness about, the consciousness that we want to, live by. But we also have to understand that the achievement of peace within, the achievements of harmony and balance within, are nothing if they are not manifested without. So the whole purpose of working on peace is so that it can manifest itself. So the more we do work on self, to increase our capability to understand, what are the behaviors that yield to being peaceful within, and what are the decisions and the attitudes that we have to make and work on so that we can be a peaceful human being, have to also then translate into our actions. And as I was mentioning earlier, a lot to do with conflict and wars have to do with, lack of ability to see the other person's position and opinion, and to think that, our view is the right one and the other person's view is not. So lack of perspective is causing a lot of the conflicts. So it's important for me to say that we have to really take time to educate ourselves to the perspective of other people, concerning what is it that they need and what is it that is fit for them, so that we can be more conscious about having to reach a compromise, that we may not always have everything we want, but we can compromise in some ways so that we can create a peaceful climate and we can have better relationship with each other. So it requires, of course, some sacrifice, and it's not a very individualistic approach to peace, although it starts with the individual. It's going to be for the better of the entire community that we are doing that. So for me, spirituality is not just a personal quest. Spirituality is a personal quest, but it has to manifest in the community. So therefore, that's why when you are becoming a person who are more in balance and harmony with your own self, you have to start seeing that it translates into what you manifest around you. So that's why it's so important to practice being kind to others, practice being mindful of others' needs, being mindful of others' everyday endeavors and challenges, so that we can see in what way we can collaborate and we can participate into helping others. So this is one of the things that I really consider really my strongest practice, is really to see how I can be of use, how can be of service for others, to make sure that I implement my peaceful attitude into the world, my attitude looking for peace into the world. Because I know when people are in a safe space, they are of course more peaceful. And being safe is also being safe about your health, being safe about a shelter, being safe about the food that you will get, being safe about different things, about the things that you need. So I work really diligently to provide relief in many instances with my projects that I do in Africa. I would not be fair to not talk about the fact that today's Peace Day of the UN for the year 2022 is about racism and how we have to move away from practices of racism. And it's a long topic. I'm also a psychologist, and of course I have to address this as being an African woman. Racism is something that is really in every strata of society, because it's something that has taken so many centuries to install, mainly the idea that the others were different and the others were not good enough or were not as good. We know that we are not born racist, we are not born with prejudice, and so we learn those behaviors within the framework of the society we live in. So racism will recede when we also make a conscious decision that it's something, there are behaviors that are not serving us as a whole, as a community, as a human community. And matter of fact, we have to also identify the fact that it's also costing us a lot. Racism and what the consequences of racism are costing us, and in a collective manner, that we fail to recognize a lot of the resources that we could all benefit from if we were to integrate more people and more diversity into every single realm of our societies. So I really encourage people to understand that, especially in terms of me as being an African woman and African American as well, to say that racism will recede once we start using practices to tell the truth about Africa and African people, because African people are victim of a very negative image that is a complete deficit in the image of that is not really portraying the reality of Africa. As I said earlier, Africa is the oldest continent in terms of harboring human life, and has harbored human life for the longest time, not 400,000 years. During the 400,000 years, Africa has done amazing things. Africa has been at the core of the development of mathematics, science, architecture, medicine, arts, and sports, and so much more that I would not want to name here. But yet again, for some reason, Africa has been pushed out of the narrative of the human human species achievements. For some reason, there has been a blackout on African contribution to the world and to the world civilization. So I encourage people to start, demanding that they have more information about Africa and about Africans' contribution to the world, because it's really important to know that they are amazing people with lots of creativity, lots of ingenuity, and they are, to be part of the community so that we can move together to a better place, because the contribution of everyone will be required so that we can achieve the peace that we so long for. So thank you very much for having listened to me. Thank you, Master Shah and Master Shah's team of the Love, Peace and Harmony Foundation for the support that you have been giving me in terms of making sure that I have funds to help build some wells for clean water in the Congo DRC, as well as to support the construction and equipment for the Beni Women's Surgical Center, and also, of course, for the work that we are doing together to help the orphanages and the homeless children of Kinshasa. I'm very grateful to all of you, because I know it takes your time and attention to focus on such things, because you want a better world. And the better world, we build it together. There is no one left behind when it comes to birthing this new earth that is going to have an increment in our consciousness to understand that we are many, but we are also one. And in that oneness, we need to unite so that we can promote values that will ensure the preservation and survival of our beautiful planet, but also the avènement of an era where we can live in peace and harmony with each other. So I thank you very much. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful day, and enjoy this beautiful conference that is in front of you, with absolutely amazing speakers that are going to bring the insight into what is it that we are to put our minds to today. Thank you.